I'm Mitch Gallagher. Welcome to the Sweetwater Minute. It is day 2 of GearFest 2015. A special guest has joined us. Sylvia Massy's here.
Hi,
Glad
Mitch.
to see you, my friend. It's been a while since we've had a chance to chat.
Yeah.
A few years.
A few years.
Glad you're here, though. It's your first time at Sweetwater.
Yeah, my mind is blown. It's an amazing event, and I never expected the facility to be anything like this.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
really
people sometimes think
something
it's a music store. I'm just going to a music store, but
Wow.
it's this campus, isn't it?
It is a campus, yeah, with a slide and
Yeah, right.
with a hair salon and a huge warehouse and cafeteria and coffee shops and, yeah, little spaces, little secret places and beautiful studios.
Yeah.
This is a really nice setup in here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Which studio is this?
This is Studio B.
Studio B, okay.
Right,
yeah.
right, yeah, Studio B. There's 3 studios. They're all interconnected, and so you can work whichever one.
I'm still exploring.
Yeah, fun stuff to find.
Yeah.
So, you being on the Sweetwater Minute is a number of firsts for us. I think you're the first person I've had on the Sweetwater Minute who's shot a piano with a shotgun,
Oh, good.
attacked one with a sledgehammer, burned a Hammond, thrown
Yeah.
a guitar off a cliff,
Yes.
and you're an ordained minister.
Yes,
I
I
think
am.
you're the first ordained minister I've had on the Sweetwater Minute as well.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So there we go.
All right.
We're off and running with all kinds of firsts.
It's kind of a bit of a contrast there, isn't it?
Yeah. So engineer, producer, artist, writer, educator, entrepreneur, lots of slashes.
Right.
How do you manage all that? How do you keep all all those plates in the air?
Well, it's all has to do with art and creativity and living art as a 24/7 lifestyle. I mean, if you live life that way, then everything you do, what you wear, your day's full of creativity and how you cook, what you eat, how you spend your day, So I try to fill it with art, drawing, painting, I'll do music, I'll do some writing. So I try to keep as creative as possible. Yeah.
Wonderful. So you're from San Francisco originally?
Actually started in Michigan, Flint,
okay.
Michigan.
So not far from here.
That's right.
Yeah, just up the road.
Actually, I might have cousins coming to the event today.
Oh, nice.
Cousins that I've never met.
Oh, wow.
Pretty excited about that.
Yeah, right. Great. But you moved to San Francisco.
Yes.
And you kind of started working with punk and metal bands, right? How did that come about? How did you get into the engineering side of things, producing side of things?
I started with my own band, and I was assisting at a music studio called Bear West, and I would sneak in the middle of the night with my band and do some recordings. And people really liked how they turned out, so I started doing their recordings too, and their music was way better than mine, so I just continued doing other people's music. And started as a producer right from the start, and never really was educated, but I just went with it, and eventually started working at a place called CD Presents, where they were doing a Sea Hags record with, and I co-produced the Sea Hags with Kirk Hammett, who's the young guitar player, just joined Metallica.
Right.
I was also associated with the Exodus band and did a couple projects with them. So it was familiar. We were familiar with each other, and the Sea Hags got a deal with Chrysalis Records. It was a big record deal, and I thought, yay, I'm going to go to LA and do my first album, my first major label record. But what they did instead was they went to LA to work with Mike Klink, because he just had finished the Guns N' Roses, and I was so disappointed. And at that point, I knew I had to go to LA to continue my career if I really wanted a career. So I up and moved to LA. Couldn't get a studio job, even though I'd had a lot of experience with producing and engineering. So I worked at Tower Records, and Tower actually was the best thing I could have done, because a lot of musicians work at Tower, at the record stores at the time. That's where you would find a lot of musicians making bread, and so I met the members of a group called Green Jello, and the drummer from that group was Danny Carey from Tool.
Right.
So one thing led to another. I finally got a studio job at Larrabee, and I was able to do the Green Jello record there, which amazingly hit like number 20 on the singles chart with Three Little Pigs.
Right.
And suddenly I had a career, and I had people knocking on my door saying, hey, come and start producing our projects.
Right. So that was really kind of the turning point there, working on the Green Jello.
Yeah, Green Jello, which led to Tool, and then the Tool records did really well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So as a staff engineer there, you probably work with a wide variety at Larrabee, worked with a wide variety of different acts, or did you go in just to work on the Green Jello record? Were you hired as a staff engineer?
I was hired first as a tech, which lasted a day before I got fired, and then as a runner, 4 months, and then as an assistant for several years. And that led me to working with Prince, doing projects with Prince as an engineer, and then other projects. And that's where I brought the Green Jello in.
I see.
When I was actually an assistant.
Right.
Staff. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So working with Prince had to be quite an experience.
Yes, Prince is a challenge to work with.
Yeah.
He's also the most talented musician I've ever worked with. He would be in the studio. It would just be he and I'd have everything set up for him that he could possibly want to use, because I didn't want to have him left standing waiting.
Right.
So I'd have keyboards, every kind of guitar pedal, everything plugged into the SSL, ready to go. So when he would reach for something, I'd have it in record,
Right.
and then he would start playing, and I wouldn't miss anything.
Right.
And then also I would have a microphone hanging over the console, so when he was ready to sing, I would be kicked out. In general, he only sings on his own, alone in the room. So he would control the recording and layering of his vocals, and I would wait outside the door until he was finished, and then he would be trucking out to the front door, and he'd say, "Mix it," and I wouldn't know when he was coming back or anything. Sometimes 4 hours later, I'd be done with the mix and waiting. It's 5 o'clock in the morning or something, and finally someone calls and says, "Yeah, he's in Paris. You can go home now." But yeah, it was.
That's great.
Being tethered kind of to a pager at the time, and being called in at 4 in the morning. Anytime he was ready to work, I would be there.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's what it takes to build a great career.
Yeah. Well, it was exhausting, and I learned a lot.
I bet.
Yeah.
So how did you make the connection with Rick Rubin?
Rick also was a fan of the Sea Hags, the original project that I did with Kirk Hammett. And he would come into Larrabee to do projects, and I would assist his projects. And at times, we had this connection with the Sea Hags, so he would give me projects to work on, engineering projects, and I did some Danzig engineering, some additional engineering, and some post-production editing, and for Black Crows, and several different projects like that. And then after the Tool records went and did really well, we were both trying to get the same gig. We both wanted to work with System of a Down. I wanted to produce them really bad. And of course, if Rick wanted to produce anything, he was going to get the gig. So I called Rick and I says, "Listen, I know you signed System of a Down, but I want to engineer them for you. Will you let me do that?" And he says, "Sure, you're hired."
Nice.
So I got to work on that first record, and then we did several other records together too. He hired me for the Johnny Cash record Unchained, which featured Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers band as the backup band for Johnny.
Right.
And that was just a star-studded, magical session where every day I would go into the session and I'd be working on whatever it was and turn around and some other stars in the room, "Oh, there's Flea," and it's like, "Oh, there's Marty Stewart today, and it's like, oh, Carl Perkins. Oh, okay. You know, it's just every day it was something really special.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you make the move to Weed and put your studio into a theater?
It was right around 1999 when I decided I was looking at Lake Tahoe to put in a facility there, but I met a guy and he was from Mount Shasta, and we wound up getting married,
Mm-hmm.
and so I brought everything up from Sound City because the studio was actually in Sound City at the time. So I moved the Neve console up there. It's a Neve 8028. I'm sorry, 8038.
Mm-hmm.
It has 1073 EQs. It's vintage 1972.
Nice.
And moved that into an old theater that was vacant in the neighboring town of Weed,
Mm-hmm.
which is a town of like 2,500 people. And operated a studio there for 15 years. It grew from 1 room to 5 rooms, and the miracle of all miracles, in the middle of nowhere, which is Weed, people came and the place was booked like it was booked for, 6 months in advance, all 5 rooms. People coming in from Europe a lot, from Asia, from South America, every state in the United States. And since there were 5 projects going at any time, all these people would mingle together in our community kitchen, and it was really a special place to record.
Yeah.
But now that's gone.
Mm-hmm.
I sold the theater and all the other facilities, and moved up to Ashland, Oregon, and have the studio in a church now. Which is the same church that we have services every weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, it's in a new chapter.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what is the attraction of having a theater as a studio and now a church as a studio as opposed to a purpose-built room?
Well, that's a great question because I've been known for unconventional techniques for recording because I'm not much for a control room, tracking room separation. I like to work in an open room with the equipment in the same, you're working in the same room as the artist.
Okay.
I think the communication is much more immediate, and you know exactly what you're getting too. It's not like you're listening behind a glass and crossing your fingers that you're getting the sound that's out in the room and running back and forth. You really know what you've got. So I've been working that way for 15 years since the theater. The theater was massively large and sometimes difficult to control, like cymbal wash or reverb. So I built a series of trusses with fabric, like tents almost, to hold to control the size of the room at any time. So what I've found now with the church is it's a better acoustic room. It's smaller, but it's still got this open concept for recording, and it's a spiritual place. So there's something really special about working in the church.
Right, inspiring the creativity.
Yeah.
That's great. So that parallels what a lot of people do recording in home studios. They have basements, they record in garages, bedrooms where they're in the same room. Right. How do you manage the monitoring in there? Do you use headphones? How do you manage that?
I do wear headphones, and I've used the biodynamic DT770s for years. But I've just tried these blue headphones, which they're called Mojave, and surprising what great isolation. They sound great, and they have a built-in amplifier. So for like really difficult recording situations where it is an open concept studio, I think they're going to be better than the biodynamics. But yeah, you get used to a certain monitoring, and there's no problems at that point. And it's mostly drums where I'm wearing headphones, or acoustic guitar or something like vocals, where we have to work with no speaker monitors.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you find that to control bleed, you overdub instruments, or do you not worry about bleed and just do all the instruments at once?
It depends on the project, but I love bleed, and if the band is rehearsed and really plays well together, I'd rather have them playing together live always, and then just repair little bits and pieces, you know.
Right.
But it really depends on the project and the style of music. Sometimes we'll build it from scratch. We'll build it from drums all the way up. Sometimes we'll record drums with no cymbals and even separate that and just have the drummer play the parts without cymbals, overdubbing cymbals, and then you can really have fun with the room and compression.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I was checking out you did a Q&A on the GearFest recording forum.
Yeah.
And there was a very interesting post you did there where you talked about the 3 types of producers.
Yes.
And that was I think you had a unique take on that. Can you talk just a little bit about, can you summarize what you had there? It was the
musician producer, the engineer producer,
and the fan producer.
And Rick Rubin is the fan type of producer because he is he loves music and his music library is immense. And he's a huge Beatles fan. So he's a fan, and if he loves, it could be any type of music, and obviously his productions run from roots country to rap to, you know, everything, to heaviest of metal. So he's that type of producer. And then you've got the
musician
producer, which I would think would be like Pharrell, or there's a bazillion of them. You know, even Daniel Lanois is that type of musician producer. And then there's the engineer producer, which would be like the Alan Parsons, or, you know, the person that uses this as their own instrument, and that's and I've broken it out even farther because there's also the rebel producers, and then there's the mad scientist producers. You know, when I think of like Lee Perry, who basically invented dub, that was a crazy idea, and he's using this equipment to create something entirely new. So that's another type of producer. So it goes much farther than just the 3.
Right.
But yeah, I think those are the basic 3.
Do you think it's important to figure out what you are and to work toward those strengths?
Well, you're going to start from one place or the other. If your strengths are, you start as a musician, then you should develop that and use that to your advantage, because each one of those starting positions, will steer you in the direction you're going to go with production.
Right. Which type do you consider yourself?
I'm the engineer producer. I'm also a fan.
Right. Well, I think everybody would have an element of being a fan, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think so. Well, maybe there's some that aren't, you know.
I hate music.
But I've become a musician. I've become a much better musician in producing. I learned to play drums. I think I'm a damn good drummer. Maybe I'm not that good. I can keep a beat. I could hold myself together in a project, you know, and with some editing.
Right.
But yeah, and I sing a lot on projects, and I build harmonies. That's, I think, one of my strengths. And I arrange strings. That's one of my favorite things to do, is live strings with cello, viola, violin, and really building lush landscapes with strings.
Right.
So I've become a much better musician type producer, but I definitely started on the engineering side.
So tell us about recording Unhinged.
Well, it's a book that I'm just finishing, and actually, while I'm here at GearFest, I'm on deadline. I've got 2 weeks to put this manuscript together. It's written, but it has to be, there's a special coding that goes into the manuscript, so I'm you'll see me out here in the cafeteria with my laptop just madly, like every day, every moment of downtime, I'm like, ah. So it's a fun book. It's a different book because it's about the non-traditional ways of recording. So it talks about recording in unusual places, like recording in castles and caves, on trains, on boats. There's Bob Ezrin talks in the book. There's several people that are contributing to the book too. Mm-hmm. And Bob Ezrin shared a few stories. One is recording Division Bell for Pink Floyd on the Astoria, which is a houseboat that's owned by David Gilmour.
Sure.
And there's a recording studio on that boat, and they're in the River Thames, and they're actually, they did that record there. Bob also shared a great story about working with Peter Gabriel, where Peter was not getting the performance that Bob wanted, and Bob threatened him, if you don't get it this next time, we'll tape you to the wall with duct tape. And in fact, Peter Gabriel was duct taped to the wall, and they put a mic up to him, and that's the vocal that you'll hear on Peter Gabriel's first solo record.
Wow. On
one of the songs. So there's stories about the unconventional ways of getting an artist to give you a performance, and what it takes to get them out of their head, you know. There's also a lot of different discussions about gear and building your own wacky microphones, and or using broadcast equipment, or using guitars and amplifiers in ways they were not meant to be used, you know,
right.
Or using speakers as microphones, using guitars as microphones, you know. There's a lot of things that are not discussed in most technical books, and so we're going from the operator's viewpoint, in that, you know, you know, what exactly, how far can you take this, you know?
Right.
And try to get people to be more adventurous. It's adventure recording is
right.
what I'm trying to get people back into, because presets are kind of boring after a while, you know?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and everyone gets the same sounds, and all the music kind of sounds the same.
Right.
So,
right.
and Jack White, Jack White, I just heard from his management, and he's going to also contribute some stories to the book, and I'm excited about that, because here's that guy, you know, he builds guitars out of pieces of wood and string, and just like, here's some noise, and so we love that guy. So
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great. I can't wait to read it. It's coming out in 2016, correct?
January 2016.
January. So we'll look forward to that.
All right.
Thanks so much for being here. The two of us are actually heading on stage shortly here at GearFest to do a little interview on stage and a workshop there, so that's going to be fun.
All right.
Great to see you.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks again.
All right.
I'm Mitch Gallagher. Thanks for joining me for the Sweetwater Minute.